Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. Usually when we talk about enterprise software, we end up talking about data.
Right, where it lives, how you move it, how you store it, all that stuff.
Exactly. But today, based on this stack of documentation we have on SAP Sales and Distribution, or SD, we are going to talk about something much more, well, human. We're talking about behavior.
That is a great distinction to make right off the bat, because I think for a lot of people, when they hear SAP SD, they just think, oh, that's the screen where I type in an order.
Yeah, it feels very mechanical.
Very.
A glorified typewriter. But looking at the research we have today, and we are covering some really advanced configuration topics here, it is so much more than that. It feels less like a typewriter and more like a nervous system.
That is the perfect analogy.
Mm.
It really is the nervous system of a company.
Mm.
Because, entering an order, that's the easy part. The hard part is the logic that prevents total business chaos.
You mean the invisible rules?
Exactly. The rules that stop you from promising products you don't actually have. Or shipping $1 million of goods to a customer who hasn't paid their bills in 6 months.
Right. It's the difference between a system that just records your mistakes and one that actively stops you from making them in the first place. And our sources today cover 5 really critical areas of this nervous system.
Yep.
We've got incompletion logs, intelligent selling, availability checks, revenue account determination, which I have to say sounds dry, but is actually where the money gets real. And finally, credit management.
It's a great mix. It really covers the whole life cycle of a sale.
And the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We want to get inside the head of a senior consultant. The sources make a big deal about this difference between a junior mindset and a senior one.
Oh, it's huge.
We want to move past just fixing errors and understand how you design a system where errors are, well, basically impossible.
That's the key difference right there. A junior consultant fixes a bug so the user can keep working. A senior consultant builds a system where the bug just can't survive. They aren't just configuring software, they are designing business behavior.
I love that. So let's jump right in. The sources describe SAP as having these different personalities. And the first one is the gatekeeper, which brings us to incompletion logs.
Right, the gatekeeper. This is your first line of defense.
Okay, so the source makes this bold claim that I want to test with you. Most business errors aren't because the configuration is broken, it's because the data is bad.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's human error. It's unavoidable. Someone forgot the Inca terms, or the payment terms are wrong, or they skipped the shipping point. If you have 100 sales reps, someone's going to be rushing.
And without this gatekeeper, that order, it just goes through.
It goes to the warehouse, and then
Right.
nothing. The truck can't leave because nobody knows who pays for the shipping.
Total gridlock.
Yeah.
And the warehouse team is just standing there looking at a box they can't move.
Precisely. So in SAP, we use a transaction code, it's OVA2, to define what's called an incompletion procedure. But here's where it gets nuanced, and this is that senior consultant mindset.
Okay.
There's a huge difference between making a field screen mandatory versus process mandatory.
Let's unpack this. Screen mandatory is what we see on websites all the time, right? The little field turns red, and you can't click next until you fill it in.
Correct. And that sounds good on paper. Just force them to enter it.
Yeah.
But in a complex B2B sales world, that can actually be dangerous.
Dangerous. How?
Well, what if I'm on the phone taking a quick inquiry? I might not know the shipping point yet. Maybe the customer hasn't decided. If you force me to enter it right now, and the system won't let me save my work otherwise, what am I going to do?
You're going to lie. You're going to pick the first option in the dropdown just to make the error message go away.
You got it. You type in garbage just to save the file. And now you have bad data in the system, which is so much worse than missing data.
So process mandatory is the smarter alternative.
Yes. The system says, okay, I see you missed the shipping point. I'll let you save the order so you don't lose your work. But, and this is a big but, I am putting a block on the downstream process.
Ah, so you can take the order, but that order is basically paralyzed. It's in a coma.
That's a great way to put it. We use these status groups to decide exactly what gets blocked. Maybe missing data blocks the delivery, so the warehouse can't even see it. Or maybe it blocks billing.
That is really smart. It allows flexibility for the human, but strict discipline for the process.
You're catching the problem upstream in the air-conditioned office so it doesn't explode downstream on the factory floor.
Now, paired with the gatekeeper, the sources talk about the messenger. This is text determination. And I have to be honest, when I saw that, I thought, are we really going to talk about typing notes? It seems kind of trivial.
It seems trivial until the truck shows up at the wrong gate and the driver gets turned away. This is all about communication flow. An order isn't just data, it's instructions.
Like forklift required or gate code 5566.
Exactly. Or deliver to the rear entrance.
Hmm.
And the source is right to emphasize that senior consultants use configuration for this T-code VOTXN.
Why is that better than just having a developer write some code to print thank you on the invoice?
This is a classic trap. It's called hard coding. If you have a developer literally write the words into the programming code, you've created a maintenance nightmare. Let's say you hard code a Merry Christmas message.
Okay.
Well, come January, you need that message gone. Now you have to call IT, open a ticket, pay for a developer, test the code change. It's slow and expensive.
Just to change a sentence, that's ridiculous.
It is. With text determination, it's just data. You configure the system to look at the customer master record. Does this customer have a shipping instruction? If yes, copy it to the sales order, then copy it to the delivery note.
It's like the telephone game, but it actually works.
Exactly. And you don't need a developer. You just update the master data, and it flows automatically to the person packing the box.
Yeah.
It's the sticky note that travels with the order.
Okay, so we've locked down the data with the gatekeeper and ensured clear instructions with the messenger. Now let's get to the fun stuff, making money. The sources call this section intelligent selling.
Right. This is where we shift from just preventing errors to actively driving revenue.
And we're talking free goods, substitution, and cross-selling. Let's start with free goods. Everyone loves free stuff. Buy 10, get 1 free. But from a system perspective, this sounds like it could get messy. Can't the sales rep just change the price to 0?
They could, but you never, ever want to allow that. That is a recipe for fraud. Oh, here's a free laptop from my cousin.
Right.
So in SAP, we use the condition technique. The system calculates it automatically based on rules you set up. But the technical detail that really matters here, and this is something that trips up even experienced consultants, is the item category, specifically TAN-NN.
TAN-N. I saw that code all over the documentation. Why is it so important?
Because a free good is this weird ghost item. Think about it. It has to exist on the delivery note, so the warehouse knows to pick it. It has to reduce your inventory. But when it hits the invoice, it has to have 0 value.
So it's real for logistics, but invisible for the customer's wallet.
Exactly. If you get the item category wrong, one of 2 things happens. Best case, the warehouse doesn't ship it. Worst case.
You bill the customer for a gift.
And nothing kills a relationship faster than charging someone for a free gift. TAN controls that specific behavior. Pick me, track me, but don't charge for me.
Now, closely related to this is material determination, substitution logic. The example in the source was great, the Christmas shampoo.
I love that example. It's brilliant. Imagine you sell standard shampoo. Come December, you have special bottles with snowflakes on them. You don't want the customer to have to know a new part number. They just order shampoo.
And the system automatically swaps it.
Yes. Using T-code VB11, the system sees standard shampoo and secretly swaps it for Christmas shampoo because it's December. It keeps inventory flowing without confusing the customer.
But the source had a pretty serious warning here about silent substitution.
This is the senior insight. You can swap packaging silently, that's fine, but you can never, ever silently swap a part if the form, fit, or function changes.
Give me a high-stakes example.
An engineer orders a specific high-tensile bolt for a bridge. You're out of stock, so your system silently swaps it for a newer version that has a slightly different heat tolerance.
Bridge falls down.
Exactly. So in those cases, the configuration must force a pop-up warning. The old part is dead. Part B is suggested. Do you accept? You have to force the human to take responsibility.
That makes total sense. Okay, finally in this section, we have cross-selling, the would you like fries with that logic.
T-code VB41. This is guided selling. You buy a flashlight, the system suggests batteries. Simple as that.
But the source mentions a balance here. We've all been on websites where you try to check out and 5 pop-ups appear. It just makes you hate the system.
That is just bad design. A senior consultant configures this so it only triggers for high-value, relevant upsells. It should assist the sales rep, not annoy them. If you spam your own users, they will find a way to turn it off. I promise you.
Okay, moving on. This feels like the most dramatic part of the deep dive. Section 3, the conflict between the promise and the reality.
Availability checks, ATP.
The core conflict here is sales versus production, isn't it? Sales wants to say yes to everything. Production says, we only have so much stuff.
It is the eternal battle. The sales rep is on the phone. The customer asks, can I have this by Tuesday? The rep needs an answer now. SAP provides that answer through the availability check, or ATP available to promised.
And it's a calculation, right?
It is. It looks at what you have in the bin, what's coming in, and subtracts what you've already promised. But the critical piece here, the real decision, is the scope of check. That's T-code OVZ9.
This is where we decide what counts as stock. And this is fascinating because it's not really a technical decision, it's a business risk decision.
Absolutely. For example, do we include purchase orders in the check? Meaning, do we count stock that hasn't even arrived from our vendor yet?
So if I have a shipment coming in tomorrow from China, do I let a customer buy that stock today?
That's the question. If you include POs, you are trusting your vendors. You are promising the customer stock that is currently sitting on a boat in the middle of the ocean. If that boat is late, you just lied to the customer.
So a conservative company might say, no POs in the check. An aggressive one might say, include everything.
Correct. That's the scope of check. It defines your company's version of reality.
There was another scenario in the source that I found really relatable, the John versus Jane scenario, the race condition.
Ah, yes. The material block. T-code OVZ1. This solves the problem of two people trying to buy the last iPhone at the exact same second.
It's the Black Friday nightmare.
It is. John and Jane are both sales reps. They both see one unit available. John hits enter. For that split second, his computer's doing the math. The system places a hard lock on the material data.
So Jane hits enter a millisecond later, and what happens?
Her screen freezes, just for a second, spinning wheel.
Yeah.
She has to wait until John's transaction is fully committed. When her check finally runs, John has the unit and Jane sees zero.
Without that block, you'd sell the same item to two different people.
And you'd have one very angry customer.
Now, tied to ATP is this concept of toward transfer of requirements. The source calls this the signal. This part really blew my mind.
This is the handshake between sales and production. It is absolutely vital. Imagine sales takes an order for 1,000 units. The ATP check says, yes, we can make this. But if Tor is broken or turned off,
What happened?
that order just sits in the sales module. It never talks to the manufacturing module.
So the production team, looking at their planning screens, sees zero demand.
They see nothing. They don't schedule the workers. They don't buy the raw materials. Nothing.
And then the delivery date comes, the truck backs up to the dock.
And the warehouse is empty.
That is a disaster.
The source puts it beautifully, and this is a mental model everyone should remember. A promise without a signal is a lie.
That's powerful.
If you promise the date with ATP but don't send the signal with TOR, you are lying to your customer. You are promising a delivery that nobody's preparing to build.
A promise without a signal is a lie. I'm going to remember that one. Okay, let's head into the final section. The moment of truth. The financial reckoning.
This is where SD stops being about boxes and trucks and starts being about dollars and cents.
We have revenue account determination, T-code VKOA. The source says this is where SD becomes finance.
It is. And honestly, this is where junior consultants panic and senior consultants shine. The question is simple. You sold a widget for $100. Which general ledger account does that $100 go into?
And it's not just one big money bucket, is it?
No, absolutely not. The CFO wants to know specifics. Is it domestic revenue, export revenue, service revenue, affiliate revenue?
The source uses a bucket analogy. Pricing decides how much, account determination decides where.
That's a good way to put it. And we can't expect sales reps to know accounting codes. You can't ask them to type in account 44002. They will get it wrong every time.
So the system has to do the translation for them?
Yes, it uses the condition technique again. It looks at the customer, are they domestic or foreign? It looks at the material, is it a finished good or a service? And based on that combination, it routes the money to the specific GL account automatically.
And the source mentions that when billing fails, when you get that dreaded error that the invoice won't save, it's almost always a master data mismatch here.
99% of the time. Someone set up a new customer but forgot to tag them as domestic or foreign in the account assignment group. The system looks for a rule for a blank customer, can't find one, and just stops.
It effectively says, I don't know where to put this money, so I'm not going to finish.
Exactly. It protects financial integrity. It refuses to post money to nowhere.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most sensitive topic, credit management. The risk.
The brakes on the sports car.
That's the analogy, right? Credit management isn't there to stop the car. It's the brakes that allow the sports car to go fast safely.
I use this all the time. If you have no brakes, you can't race because you'll crash. If a company has no credit checks, they can sell incredibly fast. They can break revenue records. But 6 months later, when nobody pays, the company goes bankrupt.
So credit management allows sales to accelerate without crashing the cash flow, but the source distinguishes between simple checks and automatic checks.
A simple check is a dangerous, blunt instrument. It just looks at a number. You have a $10,000 limit, you're at $10,001. Blocked.
It doesn't care if you've been a loyal customer for 20 years.
Doesn't care at all. It's too rigid.
Yeah.
Automatic checks, they let us be nuanced. We can segment customers. A gold customer might just get a warning. A high-risk customer gets a hard block.
But the real weapon, the source called it the nuclear option, is the oldest open item check. This sounded intense.
It is the nuclear option. It ignores the credit limit entirely. It just looks at the timeline. It says, I don't care if you have $1 million in credit. You have one single invoice for $50 that is 90 days overdue. Until you pay that $50, you cannot buy anything else.
Wow. It shuts them down completely over one old bill.
It turns the sales rep into a debt collector. The customer calls to place a new order, and the rep has to say, I literally can't put this in the system until you pay that old invoice.
I can just imagine the shouting matches between the sales director and the CFO over that setting.
Oh, absolutely. That is the fiercest battleground in any SAP project. Sales wants flow, finance wants security. The configuration decides who wins.
So we've covered a huge amount of ground here. We started with the gatekeeper, making sure our data is clean. We moved to intelligent selling to boost revenue. We looked at that handshake between sales and production with the ATP and TOR. And finally, we saw how the money lands and how we protect the company from risk.
It really is a complete narrative of a business transaction told through configuration.
When you look at all of this together, what's the big takeaway for you? What separates the people who just know SAP from the true experts?
I think it comes back to that senior consultant mindset we talked about at the start. A junior person looks at these screens and they see fields to be filled in. They see tasks.
I need to check this box.
Right. But a senior consultant looks at these screens and sees a strategy. They see that by configuring the incompletion log a certain way, they are saving the warehouse 10 hours of work a week. By setting up the oldest open item check, they are drastically improving the company's cash flow. They aren't just configuring software. They are designing a business process.
That's such a cool perspective. It's not software, it's behavior modification.
Yeah.
You're forcing the organization to be disciplined. So here is our final thought for you, the listener. Think about your own systems, whether you use SAP or something else. Are you relying on your users to just remember to do the right thing? Are you hoping they remember to check stock or hoping they remember to upsell? Or have you built a system that enforces those things so that the right way is the only way?
That's the question. Are you building on hope or are you building discipline?
A huge thanks to our expert for guiding us through the nervous system of SD today. And thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.